free speech.
You can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. Well, Jimmie was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago.
All they do is hit Trump. That's all they do. All they do is hit Trump. They're licensed. They're not allowed to do that. They're an arm of the Democrat Party.
We were just about to walk in. They waited to pull the plug on this right as the studio audience was about to walk in.
Because I was very excited to watch the show, but there was no explanation at all. They just came out, they told us, we're really sorry guys, sorry for the inconvenience. I'm just gonna have to ask everyone to leave, and there was no explanation.
It feels like shows like yours, shows like...
We're gonna change, and there's nothing anybody is ever gonna be able to do about that.
But it takes more courage now than...
I think this is a great for, if you look, people have been asking if they're going to be in trouble this year.
The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
This one is 4 inches longer than the other car.
To confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of...
Mr. President, my condolences to you, sir. My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
And the country that he loves so much.
Leads to all the hostages being released. It leads to Hamas being...
Hypocrisy of these fascists. And for this, he is being canceled and...
Hi everyone, my name is Lorelai Creed.
When you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct, but I don't think this is an isolated incident. Representative Swalwell, he had a tweet out last week where he was saying that, emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person.
I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I got 97% negative, and yet I won it easily. They give me only bad publicity. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. I thought it would be up to Brendan Carr. When you think about this, 97% of the stories are positive, and yet I win easily the election. It's pretty amazing when you think of it. And that shows they have no credibility.
Use that same logic with news.
If some of the old days, I remember the old days, and every 4 or 5 years, a network would reapply for its license, and the license is free. They get this valuable thing free, and they reapply for a license. I don't hear about that. The only one that I've heard even bring it up is Brendan Carr. I think Brendan Carr is doing a great job, and I think he's a great man.
5 come from? It came from there. Mr. President. You tell.
Mr. President.
Who would you like to see replace Kimmel on late night?
A lot of people, anybody could replace. The guy had no talent. Kimmel he was fired, he had no talent. It was a whack job, but he had no talent. A lot of people have no talent to get ratings, but he had no ratings. His ratings were worse than Colbert, I think. They got rid of Colbert, which was a good thing to do. And that's something that should be talked about for licensing, too.
It's kind of scary. We've always had pretty much freedom of speech here.
And it seems like that's kind of going away. And I know it's a public venue, but still it seems like he should have been able to say even a little bit that he said.
I do worry a little bit about it. It seemed like maybe the first time with Stephen Colbert that it was maybe an anomaly or a one-off, but now it sure seems like this is the start of a pattern.
I think it's kind of stupid. People have the right to speak what they would like to speak. It is not fair for people to be silent.
If you have any concerns with ABC suspending him, and if you think it's about FCC interference here.
And I have no problem with it. Quite honestly, a liberal is when they think they're smarter than everybody else and they say any dang thing they want because they're so brilliant and everyone ought to listen and they just get what he deserves. If that's what scares off ABC, maybe they need a little bit of a scare.
Essentially saying that any media actor that doesn't say what Trump wants them to say about Charlie Kirk or Trump's policies is going to be silenced. That's censorship.
Repulsive that the Trump administration is perversely using this awful death as a predicate to supercharge their long-standing campaign against political opponents. How low can they go?
I don't necessarily feel like I'm defending democracy, but I do feel like I'm giving this guy a little poke, and he deserves it, and I enjoy it.
It takes more courage now more than ever.
I don't know if it's courage. It's a little more complicated than it used to be.
Speech for all.
Trump must go now! Trump must go now!
Jimmy Kimmel's firing is part of a bigger plan to really turn this into a fascist country.
And not just the general public. Those rich, white, famous men like Colbert and Kimmel who have a gigantic platform and still are being deplatformed.
It's fascist suppression of speech. This is a dictator move. This is a fascist takeover of America.
All censorship is a threat of government power. That